Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Tarot Insights. Today, we're going to be, and we have been this week, looking at different topics of what to expect in 2022. Like any forecast, you're not going to find everything becomes true. No psychic is 100% accurate, nor tries to be. Well, we may try to be, but we don't end up being, because there's so much free will in the world. And also, this is a general reading that's looking at overall events in a kind of a vague way. And so it's not specific to one person. It's not going to be as focused as if it was for one person. So today is Wednesday, and we are going to look at 2022 in relationship to governments and things like that. Yesterday, we looked at world events, and so there may be some crossover. If you're wondering, we're in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. That is a real background back there. And so you may see people walk by or hear a helicopter fly by. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, we're outside on the patio, and we're currently at Playa Turquesa. Okay, so let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull two cards, our government, world governments in the world for each quarter. Okay, so what can we expect in 2022 for our government in the first quarter, and then world governments? Our governments in the second quarter, world governments. Our governments in the third quarter, world governments. Our government in the fourth quarter, world government. Okay. Well, first of all, in the first quarter, I'm not seeing a lot coming out of our government. It shows that there's not a lot of communication. We're not hearing a lot, and not a lot's getting done. In world governments, it shows that there's a lot of spying going on. A lot of people telling other governments what they should be doing, but not doing it themselves. There's not a lot of wisdom in the world, in the governmentally anyway, in the first quarter, but not a lot of action. And so you may not have, I would not set high expectations about our government or world government in the first quarter. In the second quarter, we continue with a lack of action, but it's more a peaceful. It's almost like a planning and a peaceful lack of action. And so whereas the first quarter was just not being able to get things done, not being able to get things decided, the second quarter, it's kind of arresting. The second quarter for world governments, there's a lot of fighting, and I'm afraid that we may see these little skirmishes all over between governments. And so it's not necessarily fighting within the governments, so it's not necessarily a civil excuse me, a civil war, but it's with others. And so, well, there could be civil wars. It's the lovers upside down. So that could be within the self, but governments are not making good choices. This is not, the whole reading, I have to say, is not doing very well. And so we'll have to think of something positive to come up. And I will do that. Whenever I see a lot of, I try to then look and say, okay, on the positive side, what are we going to experience? And so we'll finish with that, because my first spread is not that positive. All right. We may hear of, in the third quarter, so that would be, well, leading up to the election, right? Of any elections, you may hear just a lot of falsities coming from governmental officials or government people trying to be in the government even. So this could be just simply election nonsense, where nobody's telling the truth, no matter what side of the aisle you're walking on. It just shows a lot of deception. With other governments, though, it shows that they are trying to communicate. So I think after this time in the second quarter of a lot of disagreements, it shows the world governments coming together and trying to have a conversation. And so that's hopeful. There could be a major change within the government. In our government in October, November, and December. Now, this could be a change in the houses. after because of elections, midterm elections. This also could be the change between president and vice president. And so we need to pay attention to health and well-being of some of our leaders at the end of the year. I would more likely think that this pertains to just the change. I think probably the houses will flip. I don't think that would be a surprise to anybody. In world governments, though, again, I feel that we may see more women as prime ministers coming up towards the end of the year, and so you may find more women in remember that's governments other than ours. You may find more women. When I ask, what can we talk about positive about our government in January and outside governments, not January, let me redo that, in the first quarter. So let me pull different cards. All right. So in the first quarter of 2022, what can we talk about positively about our government and other governments? What can we talk about positively in second quarter, positively in third quarter, and positively in fourth quarter? Well, the positive is that there's not going to be a lot of action. And so you may find that governments are not, especially our local government, well, it comes up across the board, governments are not able to do a lot. And so even though they weren't thinking clearly, or the one just showed inaction anyway, there's not going to be, I feel, a lot of actions taken. And so it's less harms considering they're not thinking clearly in the first quarter. In the second quarter, again, not a lot of action happening. And then there could be a changeover in some governments, in bigger governments, that could be for the better. Because remember, we asked what are positive changes. In the fourth quarter, it shows, I feel that some politicians locally are, well, in our own government, are going to get so wacky that they end up getting kicked out. So we may find some of the wackier, again, I'm not picking sides of which side is wacky. It was wacky enough to go along, but some of that could create some of the politicians being expelled. And in other governments, again, it shows change in world governments. It shows changes for the better. Some governments may actually turn over into new leadership. Now, that could just be a new prime minister of sorts. In the fourth quarter, when we talk about what could be positive, it's showing that a lot of the that's not right. A lot of the untruthful words or people may not be heard, and so you may be just getting more truth out of around the government. Doesn't mean the government's speaking truth as much, but around the government you may be getting more truth. And then again, I feel a better change of leadership. So I think we'll come out of 2022 on the world stage with new leadership. On our stage, not a lot happening, but it does show that some of the less accurate voices may be heard a little bit less. So whatever you view as less accurate, right? So I could be looking at it and say, well, I think that person isn't accurate. So it isn't what I think isn't accurate. It's the universe saying the less accurate, right? So it's not a personal. Let's see if we can get a message about, see what the message is for this. They're showing me trying to get a ball moving when it's been like a heavy rock moving, when it's been in action, when it hasn't been in action, how hard it is to get things rolling. But then sometimes if you push really, really hard, it goes rolling and out of control. And so, the universe is saying, basically, be careful what you ask for, be careful what you push for, make sure that you have the ability to control the reaction to your action. All right, guys, thanks so much. And we'll see you on Thursday to hear about our spiritual growth. We spent 2 days kind of really mundane, and now we're going to get to spiritual on Thursday. Be an interesting one to hear. All right, we'll see you then. Thank you.